Okay, so apparently in Japan, the Famicom has a pair of 3D shutter glasses similar to the 3D glasses for the Sega Master System, and this, of course, resulted in a handful of rail shooters. Almost every rail shooter on the NES was made specifically so it could take advantage of these 3D glasses. However, easily the cream of the crop, the best rail shooter on the NES, Famicom, whatever you want to call it, would have to be Konami's Falsion, released only on the Famicom Disk System in Japan. This game utterly blows me away. It is a phenomenal rail shooter, the likes of which I did not expect the NES to be able to pull off. As you can see, you move around the screen, you shoot these balls as your regular projectiles, and you do have homing missiles. However, they work a bit differently than normal. You don't have to lock on with them. They automatically target whatever. They figure something out to hit. However, they're a power-up. You have a limited amount of them. Now, mind you, they throw power-ups at you relatively frequently, and each time you grab a missile power-up, you get a stock of 5 missiles, but that's not nearly enough to spam the missiles everywhere. Also, every time you lose a life, you lose all of your missile stock, so you really want to play it safe. The game does let you continue from the start of the stage every time you die. However, you do have a limited number of continues, and the game doesn't actually tell you what that limit is. Just eventually you run out of continues, it would seem. Now, I could criticize a few things about the graphics. The fact that your regular shot is a ball, the way your ship moves around, and indeed the way some of the stages scroll looks really cheap. However, that is completely nullified by the enemies in this game, which are the real star of the show, and what makes this game so freaking phenomenal. The enemies are not only well designed, looking great, like something you actually want to shoot at, but they're nice and big, making them easy, or easy enough at least to hit. Not to mention incredibly varied, and the game is constantly throwing them at you, which is a large part of why this game works so well. It's constantly switching it up from enemy to enemy to enemy. You've got these one enemies that stick at the top of the screen and shoot a laser down. They sort of move in sort of a stepped pattern. You have these enemies that fly up behind you, then fly out in front, then come back. You have these popcorn enemies that come in wavy strings of enemies. You've got these little hopping enemies that leap out of the ground. You've got this one enemy type that runs around a circle at the top of the screen, attacking you while you're dealing with the other enemies. And one that I really have to applaud are the enemies that come from behind you, but they flash first. Thank you, Konami, for avoiding a massive dick move by having them flash first. This is the thing I'm quickly realizing with rail shooters, is that it's really easy to accidentally let a stupid dick move in stage 2 or 3 slide. There's a couple of these coming up in upcoming episodes, so brace yourself. But the fact of the matter is, playing through the entire game, I didn't encounter a single dick move. The game is challenging, no doubt about that. In fact, I'll be honest, I had to abuse save states to get you more footage beyond stage 2. Actually, I think I made it to stage 3 once legitimately. But trust me, you want to see more of this game, and as such, I had to use some save states. Even using save states, this game is vicious, but it never felt cheap. The challenge, instead, came from the fact that the game was so overwhelming. It's constantly throwing enemies at you. There's barely a pause in the game, and the enemy waves often come at you in sort of this weird parallel way. I don't know the word for it, but like in the middle of one wave, another wave of enemies will come at you. And then in the middle of that wave, another wave of enemies will come at you. And if there's ever a pause, ever a brief pause, that means they're going to introduce you to some new BS that you're going to have to deal with. They'll later get mixed in with the huge enemy swarm. There's just so much coming at you. And it gives the game this incredible sense of speed and forward momentum. It really feels like you're flying straight ahead, even though if you pause the game, you quickly realize that you're really just standing still and the environment is like a 2-3 frame animation. It's actually really lame when you look at it, but the whole thing just comes together thanks to the sheer amount of enemies they throw at you. There's just so many enemies to deal with that it really feels fast and hectic, and I absolutely love that. There's even sort of a rhythm to the way the enemies come at you. Also, I gotta applaud the fact the stages are actually varied. You got the space stage, then you fly over this forest, then you have this weird green striped canyon stage. It's all kind of abstract, but still, I love that canyon stage, though, because they did some just brilliant stage design there. Then you have, like, there's water stage, there's a stage where you have, like, the red particles on the ground, and there's walls coming at you, which the walls don't animate that great, but it all really works. The game comes together astonishingly well. But the cherry on top, the thing that brings it all together, would have to be the music. The music in this game is phenomenal. Top quality, grade A Konami. Take a listen. That is awesome. Awesome enough, in fact, that they actually took the first stage song from it and put it in poppin' music. Combining this great music with the sheer number of enemies coming at you and how well designed they are, all cause it actually looks really nice when you put it all together, and all in all, it's a great game. This is like the NES's Panorama Cotton. This doesn't feel gimped or held back at all by the restrictions of being on an 8-bit system. Also, after you beat the game once, you can play through it again on a second, harder loop that I honestly haven't gotten too far into, but I can safely confirm is harder and faster and more ridiculous. This game feels legit arcadey, fast-paced, fun, overwhelmingly awesome. This is easily the best rail shooter on the NES, probably the best 8-bit rail shooter I've ever played. One of my favorite Konami games of all time now. Well, then again, I like Space Harrier, and this is pretty darn Space Harrier-ish, but still, one of my favorite Konami games of all time. And listen, Konami, if you're listening to this at all, you need to re-release this on the 3DS. I mean, it's already in 3D, and fan emulators have been able to separate the two images. If you can't do it, I guarantee you M2 can, and people, the world needs to play this game, because this is phenomenal. A truly great rail shooter, a lost classic of the genre that I unquestionably recommend to everyone listening. This game is great. Just, wow. Falsion is freaking awesome.